I just turned into a shell. Like looking back, I don't even recognize who she was, and the things that she accepted and the things that she believed about herself it's just horrendous.
Welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast. I'm Jo Clark and I'm so glad you're here. And this is a podcast for women who are ready to break free from outdated stereotypes, rediscover themselves, and embrace the endless opportunities that midlife brings. Each week, I'll share expert advice, actionable strategies, and inspiring conversations with incredible women who are redefining what it means to thrive in midlife and beyond. From health and wellness to reigniting your purpose and passions, this is your go-to podcast for feeling empowered, supported, and seen. And midlife isn't the end. It's your time to shine, rewrite your story, and create a life that you truly love. So let's get started. Welcome to episode 142. Before we get into our episode today, I'd love to personally invite you to a very special half-day event. It's called Shifting Tides, Navigating Menopause in Midlife, and it's happening on the 18th of July right here on the Sunshine Coast at the beautiful Noosa Springs Golf and Spa Resort. Now, I'll be joined by my friend and past guest, Dr. Sian Hebron, who is a specialist GP with expertise in women's health and menopause. And together, Sian and I have created a half-day experience designed to leave you feeling informed, supported, and empowered as you move through this stage of life. So if you're a woman who's been craving some time to focus on your health, understand what's happening in your body, or just simply reconnect with yourself, this is for you. So come on your own or bring a friend and make a beautiful day of it. And you'll find all of the details in the show notes, and I would absolutely love to see you there. Now, on to today's guest. Danni V is someone I'm also lucky to call a friend. I met Danni last year through a business mastermind, and from the moment we connected, I was struck not just by her warmth and her kindness, but also by her incredible strength and determination. And not just in growing her business, but in evolving as a person. Now, as you'll hear in our conversation, Danni has navigated some deeply challenging chapters, including domestic abuse in her first marriage. But her story is one of resilience, self-discovery, and growth. And Danni is a beautiful reminder that midlife can be a powerful turning point, a chance to redefine who you are, how you live, and what truly matters in this next chapter. Hi there, Danni, and welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast. It's great.
Thank you so much for having me here, Jo. I'm really excited to be a part of it.
I'm so excited. My mouth was almost about to run off into the next sentence. What a start it's going to be. As I mentioned in the introduction, you and I have known each other for a little while, but there's still so much I don't know about you because we talk about different things. So I'm going to learn a lot about you along with our listeners today. The changes that you've made in your life from when you were a young woman to where you are now and the direction you want to go in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. So let's start then with your earlier life. Where was your childhood home and what was life like for young Danni?
Wow, well, I didn't have just one childhood home. I moved around quite often, actually. I was born in Brisbane, and then I'm going to have to try and remember the journey, Jo. We lived in Brisbane for a few years, and then we went to a place called Proston. So that's near Bunduma. If people are listening, know anywhere, it's all over Queensland.
But I don't know where it would be on a map.
Yeah, it's west somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we came back to Brisbane into a different house. So we started out in Maruka, then we came back to, I think we came back to Maruka for a little bit, and then we went up to Sunshine Beach. So we lived in Sunshine Beach. My parents owned a boat shop at Noosaville. And then from there, we went from Noosaville to a place called Clare in North Queensland. And then we came back down to go to high school because my parents wanted me to be a good girl and go to a good girl Catholic school. And so then we moved down to McDowell in Brisbane, and then we moved to Albany Creek. And my parents are still there.
Okay. So
Yes.
you and for people who don't know some of these places, this is all Queensland we're talking.
All Queensland, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And how did you go then, moving from place to place? Was that, do you think in hindsight now go, oh, that was a really tough time? Or do you think it's taught you lots of different skills that you're using now?
definitely taught me lots of different skills. I never felt like it was anything different. Like I didn't know any different. I was used to packing up and moving to the next place. So yeah, it definitely wasn't anything difficult. I think the hardest place to leave was North Queensland when we lived up in North Queensland, just because the people up there are just so wonderful and we made some really good friendships and things like that. So moving away from that was really difficult.
Okay. What
Mm.
age were you then when you stayed in, like you said, high school? So from that time onwards, you were
So
Brisbane
from
based,
12.
Brisbane based. Okay. Yeah,
Mm.
that's a lot in primary school to, especially when
Mm.
you start to make friends. And being an ex-primary school teacher, I know it's hard for kids who, travel quite a bit and move around a lot because they just start to make some good friends and then, up and they're gone and yes, they
Yeah.
scratch again. Mm.
Yeah. I think I really like in hindsight, like when I look back, it's kind of gave me that sense of whenever I walk in the room, everyone's going to like me because I'm the new person.
Uh, well, there you go. So you got that confidence,
So,
building confidence.
yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that
So,
great?
yeah.
But that's personality based as well, Danny, because, again, thinking about new children who could come into a classroom, some of them are just the opposite. And
Mm.
that shy that they don't say boo to a goose, but your personality type is obviously someone who's, goes
I've
in.
entered the room.
There you go. Well done. Well done, you. Have you found then as an adult that given that's what you were, that your childhood, and we often learn the lessons from the childhood. Is that something that you feel in this stage of your life that you get restless, that you want to keep moving? Or is that the opposite, that you are really happy to have roots in where you are now?
I found that through my 20s and 30s, I definitely moved a lot. So I did move house a lot when I left home. So when I lived with friends or then when I got into relationships, I did move houses a lot.
Mm.
Now I do feel settled. Like with my children, I do feel settled, and it's actually the opposite. Like I don't want them to move away from their friends, which is really strange for me because it wasn't like I had a bad experience, but I like to see them happy with their sort of rooted friends. And
Mm.
I do find as I've become an adult that there are people that have had these friends all the way through school and they're all still really close friends that catch up and things like that. And I found in high school, the moving around definitely is a like an example of how it has changed me because I never kept any friends from high school because
Mm.
I was so used to just moving and sort of yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So then when I left high school, I didn't like, I don't didn't really take any friends with me.
Hmm, interesting. All right, then. So
Mm.
let's talk about you post high school or even towards the late part of your high school years. Did you have a set career path in mind? This is what I want to do and go for it? Or what was sort of your journey like post school when you were a young
Mm.
woman? So you'd left maybe home or forging a new direction for yourself.
Well, I've been a business owner since I was 19 years old. So I started a piano teaching business because when I finished school, I studied classical piano at the Conservatorium of Music. And so I did, yeah, I had a career path. I wanted to be a business owner and that all sort of grew quite rapidly over the years. And I used to teach through some of the primary Catholic schools in Brisbane.
Mhm.
And then that morphed into when I had my first baby, I wanted to change my whole life, as I'm sure many of your listeners understand what happens when you fall pregnant with your first baby. So I started studying my fitness degree. And then I stepped into running a women's health and wellness business, and I had it set up so you could bring your children because I wasn't in a great relationship then, and I just wanted my kids with me all the time. So I created that. And with the piano teaching, it was really difficult to be able to do that, even though I did drag my little girl, well, she's 16 now, but my little girl along with me. It got to a point where I had to have a different type of career. So, yeah, I've always wanted to run my own business. When I was at uni, I worked 3 jobs to make sure I could get to where I wanted to go. So I've always been very, very driven.
That's so interesting, Danny, because I want to know why you're quite unique in that you started a business at the age of 19. I mean, that's pretty rare. I would hazard a guess. So two things. Why did you choose that for yourself rather than work for somebody else, knowing that there are lots of risks involved? So what was it for you?
I think when I was so young, I didn't realize there were so many risks involved. I was just I was just doing it.
Yeah.
And I was really successful at it. I was really good at the role. And like I guess I'm really passionate about being very well knowledgeable about what I do. So, you know that I do the leadership and confidence in leaders now. And I studied a lot to be able to get into that role as well. So it's just I always made sure that I knew a lot about what I was doing, not necessarily knew a lot about running the business side.
Gotcha. And do you think coming from entrepreneurial parents, because you said that you shared before that
Mm.
they had a small business as well, do you think that might have been giving you an insight on what could have, what a business
Maybe
might be?
subconsciously. I don't know, because my parents were very much about you need to go to university and you need to get a job. And that's actually why I ended up in music because I had a major car accident in grade 12 the day before QCS. And so I had to make all these big choices and I was in the depths of despair. I was PTSD, but it was never diagnosed back then. And I was in hospital for quite some time. And so I just went, well, I'll just do piano. I've done piano my whole life. I'll just go audition for piano. I was being, dramatic 17-year-old and I got into the con. So then it just kind of morphed from there.
Do you look back in awe of your younger self?
Oh, so much. Yeah, I actually do feel like I'm coming back into her now, but I lost her for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm,
Thinking about you said you've got a daughter who's 16. This was all of you at 17. Could you imagine her being like that at all?
not at all. No, not at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
She's the polar opposite to me.
Is that
Complete
right?
polar opposite. I studied all the time. I was a prefect at school. I was the biggest nerd. And she doesn't do homework and she's in grade 11. So like she's the polar opposite to me in
But
that sense.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Isn't it
mm,
interesting? I love looking at your younger years and then because I've got a daughter as well, and then just having a look at my daughter and what she was like at a similar age.
mm.
And
Yeah,
she, mine's not the polar opposite, which is interesting.
yeah. My youngest, so I've got a younger daughter.
Yes.
She's only 6 though. She'll be like me.
Could be a little pocket
She's
rocket.
got my personality. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Mm.
What about your son? Because you've got the boy,
Yeah,
boy and the male
he's
son.
just a perfect little boy. Aren't all our boys perfect?
Oh, when I take my rose-colored glasses off,
I don't know if I ever take mine off, Joe.
well, I got through the teenage, early adult years, so I can start popping them back on again now.
Well,
They were
I'm only
they
just
were
going.
hazed, whatever you call that glass. Oh,
No, he's really good.
yeah,
He wants to be some type of scientist or he's very interested in like the universe and science behind all of that and stuff like that. So he does his homework. He's a good
yeah,
boy.
yeah.
Mm.
Excellent. So, thinking about again back to your younger years when you'd started a number of businesses now that you've just told us, that must have taken up a lot of your spare time, especially when you were a young adult. That's sort of not a time where you're bogged down, and most young adults are bogged down in growing businesses and all the
Mm.
these with business. So what was your personal life like during your 20s? Is it you had children at a younger age, Danny? Is that what you
No, I didn't have Talia until I was 29. No, 30. I was actually 30. I turned 30 the month before she was born.
right?
So I didn't have them young. Well, my 20s was very social because I didn't have any other commitments except running the business and partying. So I was very social. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I was just thinking, well, maybe as a business owner, the money goes invests back into the business and time goes in to try to grow the business, whether or not that was going to be your story.
No, not so much. Like I did put a lot of time, like I did put a lot of time into my business, a lot of time in growth as well. So investing in learning how to be better in my business.
Mm.
I did also, I guess I didn't go on big trips and stuff. I didn't go on big trips all the time, but I did do a lot of overseas travel. So I was always saving. That's why, like I said, when I was at uni, I was working 3 jobs
Yeah.
because I wanted to be able to do all of that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So being driven. basically.
It's very driven.
So do you set, I'm just interested, do you set yourself goals and work towards those goals?
Mm.
Or, what's your sort of pathway that you use when you're, say, you're so driven?
Yeah, so I set goals. So I know I know that there's something that I want to achieve, and then I do. So it's work with I do with my clients. I do aligned action with it. So then I work out how that works with my values, and then
Mm.
I start doing like actual journaling around it. So then I can see the action steps that I need to start taking towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, and it hasn't always been as structured and layered because, when you're learning, everything's messy. But
Yes.
now I do have like a really clear strategy of being able to achieve that.
Gotcha. And when we had our pre-chat a number of weeks ago, you mentioned, and you might have, maybe this is going to twig your memory. You mentioned that you'd forgotten who you were at some
Mm.
point. So, what did you mean by that? And what did you then do to rediscover those forgotten parts of yourself?
Oh, man, that's been the greatest journey of my life. So I would have, when I had my first serious boyfriend that I bought my first house with, I started losing myself very much so. I was very caught up in like just pleasing him. I was a real people pleaser, so I was always focused on, I lost myself trying to give to him. And then after him, I married a emotionally and mentally abusive man, and that's where I completely lost myself. Like I just turned into a shell. Like looking back, I don't even recognize who she was, and the things that she accepted and the things that she believed about herself it's just horrendous. And it actually took me a very, very long time after that relationship as well, because I've been with my now husband for 10 years this year, so it was probably 12 years ago that was, and it would be probably only the last 5 years that I've really started to step into who I was when I was that young Danny, when I was in my 20s.
Mm.
And it took a really long time because there was so much healing of the trauma. There's so much healing of like forgiving myself for becoming that as well. Like that was a huge journey for me. And I feel at times I still go on it because I can still sort of drop down into that I'm not worthy, I'm not enough type of mindset.
Mm.
And so, but now I'm aware of it. I don't believe it. I just drop into it, if that makes sense.
Yes. That's a
Mm,
big thing because a lot of women who are listening, Danny, will identify with this. And if it's not them personally, then they would know of somebody that it's happened to. How did you leave a destructive marriage, like a marriage that you knew was so destructive to you and probably your children, trying to bring up your children? How did you end up getting that courage or the ability to leave? Because I imagine that would not have been easy at all when you are, you know, at a low point and you've got children that you're also trying to be mindful of caring for.
it's terrifying. So my daughter was only 4 and
Mm.
my son was 1
Wow.
when I left him. He turned on my daughter for 30 minutes. He just went at it, not physically, but and the scars are still there. You can still see it in her. And he just, for 30 minutes, he just kept going and going. Everything's her fault. She's the reason why we're so unhappy. She's the reason why his life, just all this horrible stuff. And I couldn't stop him. No matter how much I tried to get in between them, he just kept going and going. And then eventually he stopped. And then there've been so many times over the years that he would do that to me. And I'd be like, I'm going to leave the next day. And then I'd wake up the next day, and then you just wouldn't, you'd believe that it was your fault. Oh, if I didn't say that thing, he wouldn't have, like, that was my fault that he was like that.
Mm.
And so I actually messaged my dad and I said to him, because I tried to leave that night, but he wouldn't give me my little boy, so I stayed. And then I messaged my dad saying, I'm coming to speak to you about something in the morning. Don't let me not tell you. And so then I packed up the kids in the morning and went over there, and then we just started the process. We went to mediation. It was the most terrifying thing in my life. I was so scared. Mm.
Yeah. So did you have a support group of friends as well as your parents, or was it something
Um,
just you and your parents navigated?
My dad he was most definitely the biggest supporter. I did have a group of friends, but I guess they didn't really understand the extent of it. I think they just wanted to give me drinks and like didn't like sort of let me heal in the, and
Mm.
I think that's why the healing took a little bit longer because I, masked it for like some time, pretending that everything was fine. I did hide it from my business. So that's when I was running the fitness business. And because I was terrified of what would happen to my children, my then husband would come and visit the kids in the park while I was working. So all my clients thought he was this magnificent man coming and playing with the kids, but he was actually in supervision pretty much. So I did hide it from my life a lot before I spoke about it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that also a lot can change in a short amount of time. Talking about all forms of domestic violence now, out in the open a lot more.
Yeah, it wasn't back
No,
then.
you just didn't speak about it. It was all
No.
behind closed doors. It was hush hush, and your friend probably didn't know the best way to support you. I think things would be different. Well, I would hope
Yeah.
things would be different now because
Yeah.
there is more openness and I suppose support out there if you need it as
And
well.
people, I guess, didn't really even understand it because I wasn't physically abused.
Mm,
People would say, "Oh, you sure he's not just like a bit mean?" Like my husband gets mean sometimes, and I would believe it because I had that belief that it was my
yeah,
fault.
yes.
And I guess I'm just really lucky that my parents were like, "No, we know that this is not right. You need to take these steps." And then I was blessed enough to go and speak to the most influential divorce barrister in Brisbane, like just for like a complimentary session. And he actually and this is where it hit me what was happening because he handed me this book after I just told him my story that I told everybody else, just saying that he'd been mean and like I still didn't believe that I was in an abusive relationship then. I still just thought he was really mean and I just couldn't have my kids raised like that. And he handed me this book and it said how to communicate with in an emotionally abusive relationship. And I looked at that book and then I looked at my dad because he was there with me in the meeting. And that's where I went, okay. So I didn't even realize until I got that book.
Isn't that interesting?
He just handed it and said, I just really want you to read this.
Wow. And that
Mm.
was that then the path for you to that turned things the way that you thought about things? Did it just
Mm.
flip a switch almost?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, yeah. Yeah.
So obviously you spoke earlier about the way that you see yourself now is completely different, but it's easy to
Mm.
slip in there. What sort of things did you do to help you change how you felt about yourself and how you saw yourself, and what was the process that
A lot of healing. So I did make sure I did a lot of physical exercise. That really helped me.
Mm,
I did a lot of mindset coaching. So I worked with a mindset coach around letting go of limiting beliefs and that type of thing. I stepped into a lot of meditation, just like but more quiet time. So being comfortable with being with myself. I I think that would be the like top three things that I did do. I did go to a psychologist for a while just to help me like speak it out so I wasn't speaking it to everybody else.
mm,
And then a lot of like I have spoken out a lot about what happened now, like this Friday. So tomorrow I'm speaking at the Moreton Bay a walk for domestic violence. And
yeah,
so then I'll be able to tell my story. And I think because I've done so much healing my ex-husband saw that, so he actually went and did healing as well. Like he knew that it was his actions, and he admitted that. It was
wow,
an incredible experience to have. So, I guess that's my message now is that, we need to look after men's mental health because
yeah,
if somebody looked after his mental health, he wouldn't have been who he was
mm,
to us as a family.
yeah, yeah. That's an incredible, 360.
Yeah.
Well, 360 here. I should know, but I taught little people maths, Danny. Complete turnaround. There we go. It's a complete turnaround, a 180. Yep, I'm completely turned around, halfway turned around. Yeah,
Halfway, 360.
that's half. Yes, 360. I had to physically do that in my mind. Oh my God, this is what a visual learner is like. So sorry, everybody who is going through listening, hearing the pain of me trying to work all of this out. Dear God, I like to think I'm a smart woman, but sometimes
You
clearly
are.
I've got smarts in certain areas. So your first marriage ended and you have since remarried and you've had another child with your second husband now.
Mhm.
And that's also something that a number of our listeners would have gone through themselves personally. How has that been, navigating all of that for you? Because that's completely
Ah,
different. That whole trust again with
mm.
somebody else, that must have been huge.
It's been such a huge journey. I guess I'm really blessed of who I married.
Yeah.
And then I used to, like, as I look back on the beginning of our relationship, actually used to pick fights because I didn't know any different. So
Mm.
my nervous system didn't feel safe unless there was fighting because that's all I knew. So that was a really interesting lesson to move through, realizing it was me that was causing all of that in this relationship. I don't know if I've ever admitted that to him, but if he listens to this, he'll hear it.
I hope
And
he
then
does. I hope he does.
also like the safety of just being looked after because he would say he'd, I don't know, look after the kids or I don't, just something really simple. And I'd honestly be just so grateful. And I'd be saying, thank you so much. And he would just look at me going, this is normal. And it wasn't normal for me.
Yeah.
I always had to do everything. And I still have that in me. That's what I mean. That's something that is being so inbuilt into my DNA from that relationship that I find it hard to accept help
Mm. Are you getting
because you
better?
don't know what you're gonna have to owe for that help, if that makes sense. It sounds terrible, but that is, and yeah, it's just been such a beautiful journey. He took on my children without me even asking. It was never a discussion. It was nothing we ever spoke about, but he just wanted to be such a good guide to them. So that was really beautiful. And I remember when we moved into the house we moved into now, when I went years ago when I was trying to better myself because I thought it was my fault with my ex-husband. I went and did this mindset course and that I wrote down my ideal husband and I thought I'd be able to manifest that my then husband into that. I didn't understand manifestation back then. So I'm just like, well, if I write it down, he's going to change into this
Yeah.
person. So,
Okay.
and then I found the book that I wrote it down in, and everything I listed about my ideal husband is my husband now.
Is
So I
that
did manifest him.
so? Has he changed and morphed along with you? Is that something that together you're working towards? That you're always looking to find that next iteration and improvement on yourself?
I don't know. Like, I think sometimes I don't know about how you feel with your husband, but I find that sometimes because I am so driven and I'm so passionate about being the best version of myself, so I am always on an evolution that
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like that's too much for him. Like I feel that sometimes he kind of lags behind and is like, What are we doing now? Where are we going now?"
Yeah.
So that can be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Sitting here thinking about what you said before when you looked at that book and all of the things that you wrote down is what you see in your husband now. I wonder if it's because you're looking at him through different eyes, that maybe he's always been that person and you have changed. So you are looking at him
Well,
through,
that was my ex-husband though. I
oh,
was thinking I could change my
oh,
ex-husband
your
into it.
ex-husband, beg your
And
pardon.
then
No, I
I
thought you,
married, yeah, I
yeah,
married
okay.
Kyle, and he's
Ah,
he
right.
is all
So,
those things
oh,
from the beginning.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good then. No, because I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's what you were navigating this early changes in your second husband's, your relationship with
yeah.
wanting to change him. But no, that makes total
No,
sense.
no, no. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The change is inevitable in life, and having a growth mindset and being determined to be the best version of yourself at any age, that is a choice that
Mm.
we all either make for ourselves or don't make. So you're
It's
a
a
woman,
choice you have to make every day
oh,
too.
absolutely.
Every day.
And you're a woman who's determined to be continually growing and evolving as you age. And I mean this in both a personal and a professional sense. What advice would you give to someone who's listening that might be feeling lost during, these big changes and transitions that are happening at this stage of life?
I think one of the biggest parts of advice that I can give is that be okay with where you're at and don't judge yourself. That's been a huge lesson for me to not judge who I am right now because I can make a choice to be somebody else. And then when you make that choice to be whoever it is that you want to be, like for me, it was to be that girl when in the 20s. I want to be that fun girl. And so for me to be able to move into that is every day I had to make that choice that that's who I was going to be. And in my journal, it was my intention. I choose to be. And then I just write down who I choose to be. And then that sets the reticular activating system, so the RAS. And then I start seeing opportunities to be that girl. And then, like I said to you, you do sink back into the ways if you've been somebody else for so long,
Mm.
you're gonna go back there, but be okay with that and love yourself for that because it's your safe spot. It's your nervous system is okay. That's where it feels safe. So it's moving into that next evolution doesn't feel safe, but it's really exciting when you get there.
Yeah, it sure is. And I think
Yeah.
that's another we before we hit record, we're catching up on each other's lives and you know, we were just talking about the big things that happen in this stage of life. The
Mm.
who you were has to change and morph just due to the changes of life, whether you are your children are getting older and their needs change. So therefore your role changes. That's something that you can't be the same person. You really do have to morph. Otherwise you're gonna butt heads a lot and it's
Yeah.
not a good thing. Your parents start to age. You've got to change the role that you have with them. That's a difference as well. So there's so much give and take and so much change that it can be difficult and it can be paralyzing at times and you can revert
Mm.
back. But like you said, despite all of the changes that do happen, there is so much great things as well. So
Yeah.
what's some of the great things that are happening that you're noticing at this stage of life for you?
I feel like because of me focusing on my personal growth,
Mm.
I have a really great relationship with my children. It's a very special relationship. I'm still their mum, but we're like the love we have for each other is very, very strong. And people actually comment about my relationship with my children. And that does stem from, I had to do the bravest thing of my life for my older two to give
Mm.
them their best life. And then I also, I think it's really great, like the friendships that you make, because, if you are true to yourself, you will find these beautiful, authentic friendships that are just, like when you and I speak, it's like my heart is so full after finish speaking to you. And like, that's how friendships should be. And then I think getting to know yourself. I don't know about you, Joe, but like I really feel like I know myself now. So if people say, "Oh, you're doing this" or "You're being that," you can literally in your mind go, "No, that's not who I am."
Mm.
Instead of going, "Oh, maybe I'm like that."
Yeah. That
So
is one
I
of the
think that's
biggest things,
something.
Danny. I have when I do my mentoring, it's one of the saying of know thyself because
Mm,
it is so key. You don't, and that changes all the time. And I think you've
yeah,
got to be comfortable with that. You just get to know yourself, and then something else happens. Oh, I've got to get to know myself all over again because this is.
that's what I
I
mean.
think
Be okay with that.
you
Yeah.
live through that messy middle, which is yeah, that whole messy middle, which
Oh,
I've just done a podcast episode on. It's navigating through that because yeah, things can feel uncomfortable. But when you've gone through the process and you've done the work on yourself, you get through it so much faster. You're not swimming through
mm,
that custard for as long. The distances between the messy of the messy middle gets less
yeah,
and less. And
exactly.
I think you've just got to be prepared to know that changes are going to happen. It is going to be hard at times, but if you do the work and you know the processes and you become more self-aware, you get through the harder things much faster.
And have those routines of that self-care like you and I like
Mm.
before we've hit record like that morning routine have a way to start your day so then when you are going through that messy time it gives you that moment and for me at the moment I'm going through a period where I literally have 5 minutes to do that but I make sure it gets done
Yeah,
so you could not use any excuse that you don't have time everybody has 5 minutes so just take 5 minutes for yourself if that's all you've got at that moment
yeah.
and then it can expand when that messy middle stops for
Well,
for a moment.
well, But it's the relentless, messy middle. Yeah, that's right. So your business is also growing and evolving with you, Danny. Tell us about
Mm.
what you're doing now, what you're loving, and why you're loving it so much.
I love every aspect of my business. I am literally living my dream when I'm doing my business. I'm loving that I'm getting to make such a huge positive impact with leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs so that the ripple effect is going down to their people. And that's been my vision for so many years now, is that I just want to make such a positive impact worldwide. So, people feel confident and authentic within themselves. And the way that I speak about authenticity is that alignment within yourself as well, because it's such a buzzword these days, but authenticity is probably more like that. I know who I am, so then I feel really good and happy about myself. So then I can sprinkle that onto everybody else
Yeah.
and, create these leaders that make people want to go to work and go home. And then that ripple effect, because, like from what I went through with my abusive relationship, if someone's having a horrible time at work, then the people at home are going to have that. So if you can change that at work, you don't know what ripple effect you're going to have in the home life as well. So
Mm.
I love all of that. I love the programs I'm running. I love the people I'm meeting. I love getting to speak to big crowds and, everything, all of it.
Oh, Leah, you're lighting up when you're talking about it. So that's wonderful. Do you have role models in your life that you go, like that's someone that has really helped shape who I am and where I'm going?
My mum is a very selfless woman. She's just this most beautiful human that she has these boundaries, but she would still do anything for anybody. So you sort of, not to mess with her, but you also know that you can rely on her for everything. So she would be my greatest role model. And then my dad is obviously, that's where I get all the drive from. Like he's an amazing person. And then his dad as well. Like he was a huge impactful role model to me, that I've had all my life. And then, of course, there's people in business and things like that, but they aren't as impactful as those three. Yeah.
Mhm. Have you ever told them?
I don't know. I think I definitely told my grandfather, he's not alive any longer.
Yeah.
I do tell them I love them every day.
Oh, that's lovely. Good.
I'm not sure if I've told them they're my role models. I will though. That's a really good thing to look at, because I think that would really help
Yeah.
their stage in life at the moment.
Yes. I
Mm.
know where there are so many things that we don't tell people or
Mm.
know how we feel about them. It'd be lovely for them
Yeah.
to know how special they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you
Thank you,
go.
Joe. I will.
Yeah. I want to know how it all pans out too when you do.
Mum will be like, oh, okay. She
Yeah.
doesn't take compliments very well. Thank you.
Deflect, deflect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, Danny, fitness has played a major role throughout
Mm.
your personal and your business life. I'd love to know what your favorite ways of moving and staying fit are, and have these
Mm.
changed as you're entering a different phase of life?
Mm. I
Mm.
love lifting heavy weights.
Hmm.
Love, love, love. I think that has changed. So I love it more. So the older I get, the more I really enjoy it. I also really love walking and like sort of like walk running. So I really like that for my mind. So that's really good for my mind. And it's a really good way to get the family together. So the kids come with me and things like that. So that's really cool. So when I was younger, I was probably more of a like more cardio based, I guess. And now I just like that. I like to feel strong. And I know there's all of those added benefits when you lift when you're in your 40s and more so. But I don't do it. I have never done it for that. I've just done it because of the way that it makes me feel mentally. Like I love to lift.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
I suppose, and having a gym in your backyard too. Well, basically,
Yeah,
you're lucky that way.
just
I
up the road a bit.
I would just up the road, but yeah, that's more literal. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So you've got everything there at your fingertips for you to.
Ah,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It just feels so good. It's good for the ego or not.
So, as a woman in her 40s with 3 children, 2 of whom are adolescents, so there's some big changes happening in your family dynamics
Mm.
now and in the foreseeable future, as well as
Yeah.
the different changes that your body's going through. How is it going navigating all of that?
Oh, it's like a madhouse. I think that's where it comes, where I've spoken about the relationship that I have with my children, and so I have the open conversations with them. So I don't hide anything about their behavior, but I come from a point of view that I guess they're blessed that their mum is a mindset coach. So I come from I know how to speak to them. So a lot of the leadership coaching I do is that I teach my leaders how to speak to the person in front of them. So I know how to speak to each child differently because I know how they'll receive it.
Mm.
So that's a big one that I do. I really struggle with teenage years because you need to let them have the go into the world and explore, but you just want to protect them and hold them tight as well. So I find that really challenging. And then we've got the little one, so then she's just like a pocket rocket that sets off everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big experience. It's big days, some big emotional days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody really realizes I'm going through anything because
No,
they're all
well,
so
you
caught up
just
in
got to paint that
themselves.
smiling face,
Yeah.
don't you, with everything going on in the background, and you front up again day after day and paint that smile back on.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It can be quite an exhausting time.
Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. Some days I'm just so tired by
Yeah.
the end of the day, but then you have to try and stay up to make sure the teenager goes to bed at a decent hour. But often I'll fall asleep before her because I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, that's right. You've got to put your own sleep first. That's very
Yeah.
important. So,
Yeah.
Danny, what are you looking forward to in the next 10, 20 years' time?
Mm.
Mm.
I look forward to implementing more of the strategies that I'm for business to start with, so that I am not always working in the business. So I'm looking at bringing in more people to do what I do. So then it's just, it's not just me doing it all. I'm looking forward to having more holidays. I just feel like it's time to have more holidays. And my biggest goal, which I feel like not there yet, is to just bring more joy and fun. Like, because I've been so driven my whole entire life, I
Mm.
think it's time to just start having fun.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is too.
Yeah,
Yeah, life's too short not to have fun, Danny.
exactly.
Yeah. And finally, what do you hope 80-year-old Danny is going to say about current day Danny?
Um, I hope that she's really proud and that she reflects back knowing that she's done everything that she's wanted to do in life.
I hope
No
so.
regrets.
Excellent. And having lots of fun as she's doing it.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on today to share your story, Danny. And I appreciate you sharing some of those hard times. And
Thank
again,
you, Joe.
talking openly about this really helps other people as well. So thank you.
No, thank you. It's been so amazing. Thank you, Joe.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. And remember to share this episode with someone else who would love it, and connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Joe Clark Coaching. All the links and the details from today's episode are in the show notes or at joeclarkcoaching.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe this show on your favourite podcast app and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps more midlife women find these empowering conversations. I can't wait to chat with you next week. Until then, take care and keep creating a life that you love.